When someone becomes more aware of you, there is a specific moment that almost everyone has experienced, even if they could not name it at the time. It is when someone who used to barely register your presence suddenly starts responding differently. Not dramatically, not openly, just differently. Their eyes linger a fraction longer. Their tone shifts. Their timing changes. You are no longer treated as background. What makes this moment so interesting is that it does not arrive with a clear signal. There is no announcement and no obvious turning point. It shows up quietly through subtle behavioral adjustments that only make sense once you notice the pattern. This is what it looks like when someone becomes more aware of you. Not attracted yet, not committed, not emotionally invested, just aware. Asterisk before. That point, you exist to them in a kind of blur. You are categorized quickly and efficiently like most people are. Your presence does not require much processing. You are familiar enough to feel safe and predictable enough to be ignored. Then something shifts. Often, it is not because you did something impressive. It is not always tied to confidence displays or visible status changes. More often, awareness increases when you stop behaving in ways that make you easy to mentally file away. When you no longer behave as expected. The change is almost imperceptible at first. Asterisk, they might begin remembering small details they used to forget. They may reference something you said days ago. They pause before responding, as if choosing their words more carefully than before. This pause matters because before awareness, responses are automatic, scripted, and efficient. Once awareness increases, responses slow down. There is more internal checking happening. Thoughts like, did that land the way I intended? Why did that comment feel different? And why am I thinking about this interaction begin to surface? Awareness creates friction, and friction creates attention. Asterisk, this is where many people misread the situation. They assume awareness equals interest or awareness equals approval. It does not. Awareness simply means you have crossed from being unexamined into being noticed. That alone can feel powerful because invisibility is psychologically numbing. When someone starts registering you more fully, it activates a feedback loop. You feel more real, more present, and less interchangeable. However, it becomes important to understand what actually caused the shift. Asterisk, most people believe awareness increases when you add something obvious, such as more charisma, more talking, more effort, or more availability. In reality, awareness often increases when you remove something, specifically when you stop smoothing interactions purely for comfort. When you are no longer performing social lubrication just to keep things easy. This does not mean becoming cold or distant. It means you stop over-explaining. You stop preemptively justifying yourself. You stop filling silence with reassurance. You allow moments to breathe. Asterisk, silence is one of the fastest awareness triggers, because silence forces the other person to stay present. It denies them the ability to glide through the interaction on autopilot. They have to register you in real time. This is why awareness often appears after behavioral subtraction rather than addition. You respond a little slower. You do not rush to agree. You do not immediately correct misunderstandings, not as a tactic, but as a natural consequence of being grounded and internally steady. Asterisk, once awareness begins, the dynamic changes. You may notice them testing you in subtle ways. Light disagreement, small provocations, or questions that never appeared before. This is not hostility. It is calibration. They are checking the shape of you. Before awareness, there is no reason to test. After awareness, there is, because now you matter enough. To measure. Asterisk, another sign is inconsistency. Someone who was previously predictable becomes slightly erratic. Warm one day, neutral the next, engaged and then distant. This confuses people who expect linear escalation. Awareness does not move in straight lines. It oscillates. The mind does. Not immediately know what to do with a newly registered person. It approaches, pulls back, and reassesses. It is figuring out where you belong in its internal hierarchy. Asterisk during this phase. Many people panic and try to stabilize the interaction. They push for clarity. They seek reassurance. They attempt to lock the dynamic back into something familiar. Ironically, this often collapses awareness instead of deepening it. Awareness thrives in unresolved space. When everything is explained too quickly, the mind relaxes again and categorizes you. The mystery dissolves. This does not mean playing games. It means not rushing emotional conclusions. Awareness requires time to consolidate. Asterisk, there is also an emotional component that is rarely discussed. When someone becomes more aware of you, they become more aware of themselves around you. They notice how they behave, how they feel, and what they reveal. That self-awareness can be uncomfortable. This is why increased awareness sometimes comes with defensiveness or withdrawal. It is not rejection. It is internal recalibration. Are adjusting to the fact that you now activate something reflective inside them. Asterisk at this stage. Power is not about dominance or control. It is about stability. The person who remains internally steady while awareness is forming becomes the psychological reference point. Context matters here. For men especially, this phase is often misunderstood because of early conditioning around attraction and attention. Many men are taught to escalate quickly once they sense interest, to capitalize before momentum fades. Awareness is not interest, yet it is the doorway. Trying to sprint through the doorway usually closes it. Asterisk, what sustains awareness is coherence. Your words match your pacing. Your tone matches your boundaries. Your presence matches your self-perception. There is no scrambling to impress and no overcorrection to maintain approval. This coherence is what allows awareness to remain subtle instead of spiking and vanishing. When someone senses internal consistency, they relax into curiosity rather than evaluation. This is the difference between being briefly noticed and being continuously considered. Asterisk. Another subtle shift happens internally on your side. Once you feel someone's awareness increase, it is tempting to monitor their reactions more closely, scan for confirmation, and adjust your behavior to maintain the dynamic. Sustained awareness is not maintained by attention. It is maintained by orientation. If your attention collapses inward, you shrink. If your orientation remains outward toward your direction and values, awareness has room to grow. Asterisk. This is why people who generate lasting interest rarely appear as if they are trying. To generate interest, they are not withholding. They are not chasing. They are simply not reorganizing themselves around the reaction. At a deeper level, awareness forms when someone senses that interacting with you changes their internal state in a meaningful but unresolved way. It's not dramatic, not destabilizing, just activating. That activation invites return attention. Asterisk over time, awareness either deepens into attraction, respect, or emotional relevance, or it dissipates if the interaction becomes too predictable or too needy. The outcome depends less on what you do next and more on what you stop doing. You stop forcing clarity. You stop narrating the dynamic. You stop performing for outcome. You let awareness do its work. If it deepens, it does so organically because it was allowed to mature rather than being rushed into a label. Asterisk, this phase is often skipped in advice because it is not flashy and does not feel immediately actionable. Understanding it changes how you move through interactions. You stop chasing reactions and start recognizing shifts. You stop mistaking awareness for commitment. You stop collapsing your frame the moment someone notices you more. Paradoxically, that is when awareness has the space to become something real. Not because you demanded it, but because you did not interrupt it. Asterisk, if you want to understand how awareness transitions into deeper attraction or why it sometimes stalls, there is a deeper psychological layer beneath this moment worth exploring. Carefully, awareness is only the beginning. Recognizing it does not mean trying to control it. It means understanding that what happens next is often decided long before anything is said out loud. Asterisk. Awareness does not announce itself. It shows up in small changes. Attention that lingers. Behavior that shifts. Reactions that feel slightly more deliberate than before. Once awareness is present, it rarely remains neutral. From a man's perspective, this is where things often feel confusing. You sense that you are being noticed differently, but there is no clear signal. No obvious confirmation, only subtle responses that do not match what you were taught to look for. Asterisk. That is because the earliest signs of attraction do not look the way people expect. They are not overt and they are not direct. They appear quietly, beneath behavior, timing, and presence. This framework is explored and explained further by Dr. Sophia, who emphasizes that awareness is the psychological doorway through which attraction, respect, and emotional relevance eventually pass when it is allowed to unfold naturally.